2020 was the year that forced Americans from all walks of life to pay attention to a movement and have some tough conversations about race. The question is, will those conversations lead to any real change in 2021? Joining us now is MSNBC contributor Brittany Packnett Cunningham, an activist and fellow at Harvard's Institute of Politics, as well as host of the News and Justice podcast, Undistracted. Plus, Eddie Glaude is also back with us. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. I'll just start with you, Brittany. What's your reaction to Tremaine's great segment there? What things were inspired or elicited from you after you saw that clip?
I mean, I thought it was incredible reporting, as you already said, that really captured the cultural shift that we experienced this year. That cultural shift wasn't random. It didn't happen by accident. It was the result of painstaking work over many, many years and generations of primarily Black and marginalized people struggling in this country to ensure that our humanity is fully recognized. In particular, these current generations over the last 6 and 7 years have been pressing for the kind of policy change, the kind of cultural recognition, and the kind of human acknowledgement that we all deserve in that very simple cry, Black Lives Matter. So if people found themselves protesting for the first time or posting Black Lives Matter for the first time this year, they have a lot of organizers and writers and academics and activists to thank for bringing them to that point. But what's critical to understand is that a cultural shift has to turn into a policy shift. We know that that work takes a long time, and we are ready and willing to take as long as it takes to make sure that that happens. Because when we think about losing people like John Lewis and C.T. Vivian, we are forced to reckon with the fact that our imaginations have to expand urgently in this moment to actually prove ourselves worthy of all they sacrificed for us. It's not going to be enough to talk about it. It's only going to be enough when we fix the systems that continue to harm us.
We always have to make sure that it is a movement, not just a moment. Eddie, what struck you about what you just saw? In particular, just seeing the diversity of the crowds in these protests. What images brought forth things for you for the last year?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was beautifully done. And, you know, it captured the kind of reckoning, the moral reckoning, the racial reckoning that we've experienced over these last 12 months. And that has everything to do, I think, with the fact that the country generally is broken. And the video footage of George Floyd gave us a sense of the depth of that brokenness, right? It was kind of distilled through the experiences of Black folk, but it became a kind of broad accounting of the state of the country. And so, Americans have a tendency, we like to pat ourselves on the back when we have these moments of recognition. And so the question that was asked at the end of the piece, and that Brittany just gestured toward as well, is that what will happen concretely in the face of this reckoning? Because what do we know? We know that Andre Hill was just killed. We know that Casey Goodson was just killed. We know that Walter Wallace was just killed. That police are still doing what they do. And we know that the country is grappling with the reality that Black folk are disproportionately being killed by the virus. But we understand the depth of the inequality in policing, the depth of inequality in criminal justice. So it's not enough just to pat ourselves on the back or say Black Lives Matter. We need concrete changes so that we can imagine ourselves otherwise.
So along with what Eddie just said, we actually do have a potential change happening tomorrow with the Defense Authorization Act. There's an amendment that would reduce Provision 1033. 1033 is what allowed local police departments to get unfettered access to everything they could ever want from the surplus military. That would include bayonets. Why would they have bayonets? Grenades, tear gas, attack drones. With the NDA, if it's passed tomorrow, there will be limitations on these resources. Brittany, as somebody who's been out in these streets, what is the impact and the importance of police being limited and the amount of military hardware that they can get access to, given what we've seen in their reaction to protesters?
That kind of limit is both critically important and just the beginning. I think it's important that we look at the timeline here. And I say this as somebody who has been tear gas and pepper sprayed and seen a lot of that equipment on residential streets in the cities and places where I grew up. Those kinds of materials should never be allowed to be in the hands of folks who are supposedly there to serve and protect us, treating American citizens like enemy combatants. And you know what? We fought the militarization of police back during the Obama administration. Who started to take some of the first steps of demilitarizing those same police. So this act is not anything new or novel. What it is actually essentially a return to things that have already happened and a fixing of something that was broken as time has gone on and under this administration. It might not be the exact same program, but the idea is one that we have visited time and again. So what progress really has to look like is not just correcting the things that Trump did wrong. It's not just fixing the things that he undid. It's about actually expanding our imagination enough that we are putting our dollars where we say we have our value. If budgets are moral documents, it means that at the local, state, and federal level, the kind of reinvestment that communities are out on the streets demanding has to actually be seen. That the kind of money that keeps being spent on police officers and carceral systems has to instead be put in schools and housing, food, and making sure that people have access to excellent food and healthcare. These are the kinds of things that people want to see moving forward, not simply a return to a status quo that was just as deadly as the life that we're living now. We're talking about real progress, real change, and people want to see it urgently.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.